I heard my daughter-in-law whisper it to my son in the hallway. She's too weak to notice anyway. I was sitting in my armchair, pretending to doze. My hands were folded over a bank statement I'd hidden under a magazine. The numbers on that paper told me everything I needed to know. $23,000. Gone. Not spent by me. Not withdrawn by me. Just gone. Hello. My name is Margaret Hale. I'm 72 years old, and I live alone in a small house in Ridgefield, Connecticut. It's the same house my husband Thomas and I bought 40 years ago. The yard is smaller now. I stopped planting roses after he died. But the house is still mine. At least, I thought it was. People look at me and see an old woman. Gray hair. Slow steps. Reading glasses on a chain. They think age makes you blind. It doesn't. It makes you see things you wish you couldn't. I married Thomas when I was 24. He ran a small appliance repair shop downtown. I kept the books. People don't remember that about me now. They remember the quiet wife who brought cookies to church sales. They don't remember that I balanced accounts, tracked inventory, and negotiated with suppliers. Thomas used to say I had a mind for numbers. He meant it as a compliment. I took it as fact. We had one son, Andrew. He was a good boy. Serious. Always coloring inside the lines. He became the kind of man who wears khakis to barbecues and coaches Little League because it's the right thing to do. He married Lydia 22 years ago. She had perfect teeth and a firm handshake. Thomas liked her. I was polite. Thomas died 6 years ago. Stroke. Quick and quiet, the way he lived. Andrew said I shouldn't be alone. Lydia said they'd help with bills and paperwork. She said it with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I said thank you. What else do you say when your son is standing there looking worried? For 2 years I let them help. Lydia would come over once a month with papers to sign. Insurance forms. Utility transfers. She always brought them at the end of the day when I was tired. She'd point to the signature line and hand me a pen. I signed because she was family. Because I trusted the word family meant something. Last month I couldn't sleep. My hip was bothering me. I came downstairs at 3 in the morning and found my checkbook on the kitchen table. I hadn't left it there. The register showed transactions I didn't remember. Small ones. $70 here. $120 there. Then bigger ones. $800. $1,500. All marked as transfers to Andrew and Lydia's joint account. I sat at that table until dawn. Then I got dressed, walked to the bank and asked for copies of everything. The teller was young. She called me Mrs. Hale and spoke slowly, like I might not understand. I understood perfectly. The statements showed more than I expected. Automatic withdrawals I never authorized. A home equity loan I never signed for. Credit card charges in my name at stores I've never been to. The paper trail went back 18 months. They'd been careful at first. Then they got comfortable. Comfortable people make mistakes. I didn't cry. I didn't call Andrew. I went home and made myself tea. Then I went through every drawer, every file, every envelope in the house. I found copies of documents with my signature on them. The handwriting was close. Very close. But I've been signing my name for 72 years. I know the way my capital H tilts left. These tilted right. That night at dinner, Andrew asked if I needed anything. Lydia refilled my water glass without being asked. She wore a cream-colored sweater that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. She laughed at Andrew's stories about work. She called me Mom twice. I smiled and ate my pot roast and said nothing. I've learned something about being old. People stop seeing you. They look at your face and see frailty, confusion, irrelevance. They forget you've lived decades longer than they have. They forget you've survived things they can't imagine. They forget that just because your hands shake doesn't mean your mind does. Last week, I overheard Lydia on the phone in my bathroom. She thought I was outside watering the hydrangeas. She was talking to someone about refinancing. She said, she won't be around much longer anyway. We might as well access the equity now. I stood very still in the hallway. The watering can dripped onto the carpet. She came out and jumped when she saw me. "Oh, Mom, I didn't hear you come in." She touched my arm. "You look pale. Are you feeling all right?" I told her I was fine. Just tired. She helped me to my chair and brought me tea I didn't want. She asked if I'd taken my pills. I said yes. She stayed for another hour, talking about her plans to redecorate their kitchen. Marble countertops, custom cabinets. I nodded in the right places. After she left, I sat in the quiet house and thought about choices. About what happens when the people who are supposed to love you decide you're worth more as a resource than as a person. About how easy it is to steal from someone when you've convinced everyone, including yourself, that you're helping. I thought about my granddaughter Emily. She's 22. She came by last month without calling first. She sat on the porch with me and didn't talk about paperwork or pills or how I was managing. She asked about Thomas, about the repair shop, about the trip we took to the coast in 1981. She listened like my memories mattered. That's when I knew what I had to do. Tomorrow, I'm calling Arthur Wynne. He's a retired accountant. He used to do Thomas's business taxes. He's not family. He doesn't have reasons to lie to me. He'll look at the numbers and tell me the truth. Then I'll decide what comes next. Tonight, I'm sitting in my armchair with the bank statements in my lap. Andrew called an hour ago to check on me. He does that now, every evening at 8. He asks if I've eaten, if I've locked the doors, if I need anything. His voice is kind, concerned. It used to comfort me. Now I wonder if he's checking to see how much longer he has to wait. I told him I was fine. I didn't mention the statements. I didn't mention what I heard in the hallway. I thanked him for calling and said good night. Then I turned off the lights and sat in the dark, watching headlights pass on the street outside. People think being old means being powerless. They're wrong. I've been keeping books since before Lydia was born. I know how to read a balance sheet. I know how to trace a lie. I know exactly what's been taken from me. They think I'm too weak to notice. That's their first mistake. I'm not weak. I'm just careful. And careful people. We see everything. Arthur Wynne's office smelled like old paper and coffee. I sat across from his desk while he read through the bank statements. He didn't say anything for a long time. Just turned pages. Made small marks with a pencil. His reading glasses kept sliding down his nose. I'd called him 3 days after that night in my armchair. He told me to bring everything I had. So I did. 2 manila folders full of statements, loan documents, and signatures that weren't quite mine. I carried them in my canvas grocery bag, the one with strawberries printed on the side. Nobody questions an old woman with a grocery bag. Arthur finally looked up. His expression hadn't changed. That's what I liked about him. He never patronized. "Margaret," he said, "this is elder financial abuse. Textbook case." I'd known that. But hearing someone else say it made it real in a different way. "How much?" I asked. He flipped back through the pages. Conservatively, 47,000 over 18 months. Could be more if they've opened accounts you don't know about. $47,000. Thomas and I had saved for 30 years to have that cushion. We skipped vacations, drove old cars, ate leftovers. That money was supposed to keep me safe. What do I do? I asked. Arthur set down his pencil. Call the police. File a report. Get an attorney. I can refer you to someone who specializes in this. I nodded, but I didn't move to leave. Margaret. He leaned forward. Why do I get the feeling that's not what you want to hear? I looked at my hands. The wedding ring was loose now. I kept meaning to get it resized. He's my son, I said. Arthur didn't respond. He just waited. That's another thing I liked about him. He understood that silence was part of talking. I don't know how much he knows, I continued. Maybe Lydia did all of it. Maybe she showed him papers and he signed without reading. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he trusts her. Maybe, Arthur said. But that doesn't change what's happened. No, I agreed. It doesn't. I left his office with a list of lawyers and a recommendation to freeze my accounts. Arthur walked me to my car. He was 74. Moved slower than he used to. But his mind was still sharp as the day Thomas first brought our tax returns to him. You're not weak, Margaret, he said before I drove away. Don't let them make you believe you are. I went home and made lunch. Tomato soup from a can. Crackers. I ate at the kitchen table and thought about Andrew. About the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard. Who cried when his hamster died. Who called me every Sunday from college just to ask how I was doing. That boy had grown into a man who let his wife steal from his mother. Or a man who helped her do it. I didn't know which was worse. The doorbell rang at 2:30. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw Emily standing on my porch. She was holding a paper bag from the bakery downtown. I opened the door. Sweetie, what are you doing here? I brought scones, she said. Can I come in? Emily had her father's serious face and her own gentle eyes. She'd graduated college last year, worked at some tech company doing something I didn't quite understand. She lived 40 minutes away but visited more than Andrew did. We sat in the living room. She put 2 scones on plates and handed me one. Blueberry. My favorite. She remembered. Grandma, she said. Are you okay? Of course, I said automatically. Why wouldn't I be? She set down her scone. You haven't called me in 3 weeks. You always call on Thursdays. I had forgotten about our Thursday calls. I'd been too distracted with bank statements and lawyers' names on sticky notes. I've been busy, I said. Busy with what? I didn't answer. Emily watched me with those careful eyes. She'd always been observant. Even as a child. She noticed things other people missed. Dad asked me to check on you, she said quietly. He said you seemed distant lately. Something cold settled in my stomach. Did he? Yeah. Emily picked at her scone. He wanted me to see if you were confused about anything. Taking your medications. Remembering to eat. There it was. The groundwork. Making sure everyone knew Margaret was getting forgetful. Setting up the story for later. She's old. She's confused. She doesn't remember giving us permission. I must have been quiet too long because Emily leaned forward. Grandma. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She had Thomas's jaw. Stubborn. Set. She also had something her father had lost somewhere along the way. Integrity. Emily, I said. Can I trust you? Her expression shifted. Of course you can. I mean really trust you. Not tell your father. Not tell anyone. She put down her plate. You're scaring me. I don't mean to. I stood up slowly. My hip was bothering me again. I need to show you something. I brought the folders from my bedroom, the ones I'd copied before taking the originals to Arthur. I spread them across the coffee table. Bank statements, loan documents, forged signatures. Emily looked at the papers, then at me, then back at the papers. What am I looking at? She asked. Your parents have been stealing from me, I said. The words came out flat, matter of fact. For 18 months, maybe longer. I watched her face. Shock first, then confusion, then something harder. Anger, maybe, or hurt. She picked up one of the statements. This can't be right. It is. But Dad wouldn't. She stopped. Read another page. Mom, mostly your mother, I said. I don't know how much your father knows. Emily went through every paper. She didn't rush. She read carefully. When she finished, she sat back against the couch. Her hands were shaking. $47,000, she said. That's Arthur's estimate. Who's Arthur? A retired accountant. He's helping me understand what happened. Emily was quiet for a long time. Then she said, What are you going to do? I don't know yet. You have to report this. This is theft. This is fraud. He's my son. I don't care. Emily's voice cracked. She stood up and paced to the window. Grandma, they stole from you? They forged your signature. They took out loans in your name. This isn't some family disagreement. This is a crime. I knew she was right. Arthur had said the same thing. But knowing something and doing something are different. Your father might not have known, I said. Emily turned around. Her face was flushed. Then he should have. He gave Mom access to your accounts. He brought her here to help you. If he didn't know, it's because he didn't want to know. That hurt more than I expected. Because it was probably true. Emily came back to the couch. She sat next to me and took my hand. You're not weak, she said. You know that, right? You're not confused. You're not the problem here. I squeezed her hand. Your mother said I was too weak to notice. Well, she was wrong. Emily's voice was fierce. You noticed. You documented everything. You got professional help. That's not weak. That's smart. I felt something crack in my chest. Relief, maybe. Or just the simple comfort of being believed. I don't want to destroy our family, I said quietly. They already did that, Emily said. You're just deciding how to respond. We sat there for a while. The afternoon light came through the windows. Outside, someone was mowing their lawn. Normal sounds. Normal day. Nothing felt normal. What can I do? Emily asked. Just knowing is enough, I said. Just believing me is enough. That's not enough. She stood up and started gathering the papers. We need a plan. Have you frozen your accounts? Not yet. We're doing that today. Right now. She pulled out her phone. And we need to get these documents somewhere safe. Not in this house. I watch her move around my living room with purpose. She was 22 years old and she was protecting me. It should have been the other way around. Emily, I said. Your father will be angry. She looked at me. Let him be angry. He should be ashamed. We spent the next 3 hours on the phone with banks. Emily did most of the talking. She explained the situation. Used words like unauthorized access and identity theft. She was calm and firm. She didn't let them dismiss her. By 5 o'clock, all my accounts were frozen. New passwords set. Access revoked for anyone but me. Emily had also made me an appointment with an attorney for the following week. I'll go with you, she said as she packed up her things. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She hugged me tight. You're not doing this alone. After she left, I sat in the quiet house. The folders were gone. She'd taken them to her apartment for safekeeping. The coffee table was empty except for a few scone crumbs. I thought about Andrew, about the phone call that would come tomorrow or the next day, when Lydia tried to make a transfer and couldn't, when they realized I'd locked them out. The confrontation was coming. I'd put it off as long as I could, but frozen accounts would force the conversation I'd been avoiding. I wasn't ready. I didn't know if I'd ever be ready. But Emily was right about one thing. I'd already lost the family I thought I had. The question now was what I'd build from what remained. That night, Andrew called at his usual time. 8 o'clock. Like clockwork. Hi, Mom. Just checking in. Hello, Andrew. Emily said she stopped by today. That was nice. Yes, I said. It was. She said you seemed good. Sharp. There was something in his voice. A question he wasn't asking. I am sharp, I said. A pause. Of course you are. I just meant well, you know. We worry. I know, I said. And I did. I just didn't know anymore if the worry was real. We talked for 5 more minutes. He told me about work, about Lydia's garden, about nothing important. When we said goodbye, I held the phone for a long time after the call ended. Tomorrow, Lydia would try to access my accounts. Tomorrow, everything would change. I went to the kitchen and made tea. Then I sat at the table where I'd found my checkbook that sleepless night. The same table where Thomas and I used to do the shop's bookkeeping. Where we'd made plans and counted receipts and built a life. I wasn't weak. I was just outnumbered. But Emily had changed that. Now there were 2 of us. 2 people who knew the truth. 2 people who wouldn't pretend everything was fine. It wasn't much, but it was something. And sometimes, something is enough to start. Lydia called at 9:15 on Friday morning. I was watering the hydrangeas. My phone buzzed in my cardigan pocket. I let it ring 4 times before I answered. Mom. Hi, it's Lydia. She never identified herself. She always assumed I knew her voice. This time she did. Hello, Lydia. I'm having a strange issue with the accounts. Her voice was tight. Controlled. When I tried to transfer funds for your utility bills this morning, the system wouldn't let me access anything. I moved the hose to the next bush. The water made a soft sound against the leaves. Oh, I said. I made some changes. Silence. Then what kind of changes? Security changes. The bank suggested it. The bank. She said it slowly. When did you go to the bank? Last week. They were very helpful. Another pause. I could hear her breathing. Mom, I don't understand. Did someone tell you to do this? Are you confused about something? There it was. The script. Confused. Someone influenced you. You didn't mean to lock us out. I'm not confused, I said. I'm being careful. Careful about what? Her voice had an edge now. Andrew and I have been helping you for 2 years. We've never taken a penny that wasn't for your expenses. I turned off the hose, wrapped it slowly around the holder by the back porch. My hands were steady. We should talk about this in person, I said. Yes, we should. Lydia's tone shifted. Softer. Concerned. Actually, why don't you come for dinner? Sunday. We haven't had you over in a while. Andrew would love to see you. Sunday dinner. Neutral territory. Their house. Their control. I'd rather host, I said. Here. 1 o'clock. Oh, well, that's a lot of work for you. I insist. I could almost hear her recalculating. All right. Sunday at 1. Should I bring anything? Just yourselves, I said. And Emily. I'd like Emily to be there. Emily. Lydia's voice tightened again. She's probably busy. I already asked her. She said yes. That was true. Emily had called me Thursday night. Said she'd cleared her whole weekend. Said she'd be there whenever I needed her. Fine, Lydia said. We'll see you Sunday. She hung up without saying goodbye. I stood in the backyard holding my phone. The hydrangeas looked healthy. Full blooms. Thomas had planted them the year we bought the house. They came back every year. Reliable. Constant. I wished people were more like hydrangeas. Saturday, I cleaned the house. Not because it needed it. Because I needed something to do with my hands. I vacuumed. Dusted. Washed windows. At 3 o'clock, Arthur Wynn's car pulled into my driveway. I'd called him Friday afternoon. Asked if he could come to Sunday dinner. Told him why. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You're sure about this, Margaret?" I wasn't sure about anything. But I was doing it anyway. Arthur came in carrying a leather briefcase. He'd worn a suit. Navy blue. White shirt. He looked like what he was. A professional with 40 years of experience reading numbers that didn't add up. We sat at the kitchen table and went over everything. He showed me the full accounting he'd prepared. Every transaction. Every forged signature. Every unauthorized withdrawal. It was worse than $47,000. He found 3 credit cards in my name I didn't know existed. The total was $62,000. They've been paying the minimums, Arthur said. Keeping the accounts active but hidden. The statements were going to a P.O. box registered in your name. But you didn't open that box. Lydia did. Yes. I looked at the numbers. $62,000. More than Thomas and I had saved in our entire marriage. What happens after tomorrow? I asked. Arthur folded his hands. That depends on what you want to happen. I want the truth on the table, I said. I want them to see that I know. I want them to understand they can't do this anymore. And after that, I didn't answer. I didn't know the answer. Margaret, Arthur said gently. You understand that if they don't return the money voluntarily, if they don't agree to make this right, you'll have to decide whether to involve the police. I know. And you understand that Andrew could face charges. Lydia definitely would. I know that too. Arthur nodded. Then I'll be here tomorrow. 1 o'clock. After he left, I made a pot roast. It was Andrew's favorite. I'd made it every Sunday when he was growing up. Carrots, potatoes, onions slow cooked until they fell apart. The house filled with the smell. It reminded me of different Sundays. Ones where I didn't count the silverware after everyone left. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed watching shadows on the ceiling. Thomas used to say I worried too much. He'd pull me close and tell me things had a way of working out. But Thomas never had to wonder if his own son was stealing from him. Thomas died believing our family was solid. I envied him that. Sunday morning, I set the table. The good china. The cloth napkins. I put flowers in the center. White roses from the grocery store. Everything looked proper. Welcoming. Like a family dinner should look. Emily arrived at 12:30. She hugged me hard and long. Are you ready? She asked. No. Good. That means you're taking this seriously. She helped me finish the food, checked the pot roast, made fresh coffee. At 12:55, she squeezed my hand. I'm here, she said. Whatever happens, I'm here. Arthur arrived at 12:58. He nodded to Emily, set his briefcase by the door, took a seat in the living room like he belonged there. Andrew and Lydia pulled up at 1:03. I watched through the window as they got out of their car. Lydia wore cream slacks and a coral sweater. Andrew had on khakis and a button-down. They looked like a catalog photo. Perfect suburban couple visiting elderly mother. Lydia saw Arthur's car in the driveway. She stopped, said something to Andrew. He shrugged. They came to the door. I opened it before they could knock. "Hello," I said. "Mom." Andrew kissed my cheek. "Something smells amazing." Lydia's smile was fixed. "You didn't mention we'd have other guests." "Arthur is an old friend," I said. "I thought it would be nice." We moved to the dining room. The table was set for 5. Andrew sat at one end, Lydia next to him, Emily across from them, Arthur at the other end. I took the seat in the middle, between my son and the man who held the truth in his briefcase. The meal started quietly. I served the pot roast, passed the potatoes. Andrew talked about work. Lydia complimented the house. Emily said very little. Arthur was silent. Halfway through the meal, Andrew looked at Arthur. "So how do you know, Mom?" "I did tax accounting for her and Thomas," Arthur said. "Years ago." "Oh." Andrew nodded. "That's nice that you've stayed in touch." "Yes," Arthur said. "Margaret called me recently. Asked me to review some financial documents." The temperature in the room dropped. Lydia's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Andrew's eyes moved from Arthur to me. "Financial documents," Andrew said carefully. "Bank statements," I said. "Loan papers. Credit card bills." Lydia set down her fork. "Mom, this isn't really the time." "It's exactly the time." Emily's voice was quiet but firm. "Let her talk." Andrew looked at Emily, then at me. "What's going on?" Arthur reached down and lifted his briefcase onto the table. He opened it, pulled out a folder, set it in the center, next to the white roses. "Your mother's accounts show unauthorized transactions totaling $62,000 over the past 20 months, Arthur said. His voice was professional, neutral. "The transactions include cash withdrawals, automatic transfers, and 3 credit cards opened in her name without her knowledge." The silence was absolute. "That's ridiculous," Lydia said. "We've been managing Mom's accounts to help her. Everything we've done has been for her expenses." Arthur pulled out a paper. "This is a withdrawal of $3,000 from March 14th. Can you explain what expense that covered?" Lydia's jaw tightened. "I'd have to look at my records." "Here's another. $1,800 on May 3rd. Another on June 22nd. $1,500. "We've been covering things," Lydia said. "Sometimes we advance money and reimburse ourselves later." "Do you have receipts?" Arthur asked. "Documentation? Anything showing these withdrawals were for Margaret's benefit?" Lydia looked at Andrew. Andrew looked at his plate. "Dad." Emily's voice was shaking. "Did you know about this?" We were helping." Andrew ran his hand through his hair. "Mom wasn't keeping track of things. We were making sure bills got paid. By taking out loans in my name." I asked quietly. Andrew's head snapped up. "What?" "3 credit cards," Arthur said. "Opened online using Margaret's information. The statements went to a P.O. box. The cards were used for furniture purchases, vacation expenses, and restaurant charges. None of it related to Margaret's care." "I didn't know about any credit cards," Andrew said. He turned to Lydia. "Did you?" "Don't." Lydia's voice was sharp. "Don't you dare sit there and pretend you weren't part of this." "Part of what?" Andrew's voice rose. I signed papers you told me to sign. I trusted you. You trusted me to do what you were too guilty to do yourself. Lydia stood up. You're the one who said she didn't need all that money sitting in accounts. You're the one who said she'd want to help us after everything you'd done for her. I never said to steal from her. You just wanted the benefits without the responsibility. Lydia's face was flushed. You wanted the house equity freed up. You wanted help with Emily's student loans. But you wanted to believe it was all legitimate. Well, guess what, Andrew? You knew. Maybe you didn't know the details, but you knew. Andrew stared at her. Then at me. His face had gone white. Mom, he said. I never meant. How much did you know? I asked. He opened his mouth. Closed it. His hands were shaking. Some, he finally said. Not all of it. I thought we were just being smart. Using resources that would be ours eventually anyway. Resources that would be yours, I said slowly, after I died. He flinched. I didn't think of it like that. How did you think of it? He didn't answer. Emily pushed back from the table. I can't listen to this. Andrew reached for her. Don't. She stepped away. Don't touch me. You stole from Grandma. You let Mom steal from her. And you're sitting here trying to justify it. It wasn't supposed to be like this, Andrew said. His voice broke. I was trying to take care of everyone. You have no idea how expensive everything is. Your loans, the mortgage, Mom's house maintenance. So you decided Grandma should pay for it. Emily's voice was incredulous. Without asking her. Without even telling her. She would have said no, Lydia said flatly. She would have held on to every penny and left Andrew scrambling to manage her care later. I looked at Lydia. Really looked at her. Her cream slacks. Coral sweater. Perfect hair. She looked back at me without shame. You think I'm too weak to manage my own money, I said. I think you're old, Lydia said. I think you don't understand how the world works anymore. I think you were going to end up in a state facility eventually, and we were just planning ahead. By forging my signature. By opening credit cards in my name. By stealing $62,000. By securing our family's future, Lydia said. Arthur closed his briefcase. The sound was very loud in the quiet room. For the record, he said, what's been described here constitutes elder financial abuse, identity theft, and fraud. These are criminal offenses. They can result in felony charges. Lydia's expression flickered. Just for a moment. Then she turned to Andrew. We're leaving, she said. Andrew didn't move. He was staring at me. Mom, please. Can we talk about this? Just us. What's left to talk about? I asked. I'm your son. I know who you are. Something in my tone made him look away. Lydia grabbed her purse. She walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. You'll regret this, she said to me. When you're alone and you need help, remember that you pushed away the only people who cared enough to manage things for you. Emily stepped between us. Get out. Lydia looked at Emily. Then at Andrew. Are you coming? Andrew stood slowly. He looked at me one more time. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said. He followed Lydia out. The door closed. A moment later, I heard their car start. Heard it pull away. The house was very quiet. I sat in my chair and looked at the table. The pot roast was half eaten. The white roses were still perfect in their vase. The folder with all the proof was still sitting in the center. Emily came to me. Knelt down. Put her head in my lap like she used to when she was small. I'm sorry, she whispered. It's not your fault. I'm still sorry. Arthur began clearing plates. He didn't ask. He just did it. Emily helped him. I sat at the table and watched them move around my kitchen like this was normal. Like Sunday dinners always ended with your son leaving in shame. When everything was cleaned up, Arthur came back to the table. He sat down across from me. "What happens now?" I asked. "That depends on you," he said. "You have options. You can demand repayment. You can file a civil suit. You can report it to the police. Or you can do nothing." "Nothing isn't an option," Emily said. She'd been standing by the sink. Now she came back to the table. "They need to face consequences." "Emily," I said gently. "No, Grandma. They stole from you." Dad stood there and admitted he knew. "They don't get to just walk away." She was right. I knew she was right. But she was also 22 and still believed the world was cleanly divided into right and wrong. I was 72. I knew better. "I need time," I said. "To think." Arthur nodded. "Take the time you need. But understand that every day you wait, they have time to prepare. Time to hide assets. Time to build their defense." "I understand." He stood. Picked up his briefcase. "Call me when you've decided." After he left, Emily and I sat in the quiet house. Outside, the sun was still shining. Someone was playing music. A dog barked. The world continued on like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I'd put the truth on the table. My son had confessed. My daughter-in-law had shown me exactly who she was. And I was still sitting here, wondering what came next. "Grandma." Emily's voice was soft. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't know what okay feels like anymore." She took my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." I squeezed her fingers. "Even if I decide to forgive them? I won't understand it," she said. "But I'll still be with you." That night, after Emily left, I sat in my armchair in the dark. The same chair where I'd sat holding those first bank statements. The same chair where I'd heard Lydia whisper she's too weak to notice. I'd proven I wasn't weak. I'd documented everything. Frozen accounts. Confronted them. Won in a way. But winning felt hollow. Because I'd lost something bigger in the process. I'd lost the illusion that my son loved me more than he loved my money. I'd lost the belief that family meant protection instead of exploitation. I'd gained clarity. But clarity came at a cost. Tomorrow, I'd have to decide what justice looked like. Whether it looked like police reports and courtrooms. Or whether it looked like locked accounts and boundaries, and a family fractured beyond repair. Tonight, I just sat in the dark. And for the first time since discovering $62,000 was missing, I let myself cry. Andrew came back alone on Tuesday morning. I was in the garden pulling weeds. My hands were dirty. My knees hurt from kneeling. I heard his car before I saw it. The same engine sound I'd heard 1,000 times. Coming home from college. Bringing Emily over as a baby. Sunday dinners that used to mean something different. He got out slowly. Stood by the car for a moment. Then walked toward me. "Mom." I didn't look up. "Andrew, can we talk?" I pulled another weed. Tossed it in the bucket. "We talked on Sunday." "No." Lydia talked. I sat there like an idiot. He moved closer. "Please. Give me 5 minutes." I stood up. My hip protested. I was getting too old to garden like this. Too old for a lot of things. 5 minutes, I said. We went inside. I washed my hands at the kitchen sink. Andrew sat at the table. The same table where we'd had Sunday dinner. Where Arthur had opened his briefcase. Where everything had broken open. I made coffee. Force of habit. Andrew wrapped his hands around the mug when I set it in front of him. I haven't slept, he said. Since Sunday. I keep replaying everything. I sat across from him. Said nothing. I knew some of it, he continued. Not the credit cards. Not the full amount. But I knew Lydia was moving money around. Using your accounts to help with our expenses. Using my accounts, I repeated. You mean stealing from my accounts? He flinched. I told myself it was temporary. That we'd pay it back. When? I don't know. Eventually. When things got better. He rubbed his face. Our mortgage is underwater. Emily's loans are crushing us. I got passed over for a promotion twice. Everything just kept piling up. So you decided I should pay for it. I decided. He stopped. Started again. I decided you had more than you needed. That it would all come to me anyway someday. That borrowing against it now wasn't really stealing. But you never asked me. Because you would have said no. His voice rose slightly. You've always been so careful with money. So worried about having enough. Even when you had plenty. I was careful because I knew what it was like to have nothing, I said quietly. Your father and I built that savings $1 at a time. It was supposed to keep me safe. You are safe. You have the house. That you took a loan against. That was Lydia's idea. But you signed the papers. Andrew set down his mug. I know I did. I'm not trying to blame everything on her. Aren't you? He looked at me. His eyes were red. She made it sound reasonable. Like we were just being smart. Accessing equity that wasn't doing anything. She said you'd never notice. That it would all work out. And you believed her. I wanted to believe her. His voice cracked. Do you know what it's like to feel like a failure? To work 40 hours a week and still not make enough. To watch your wife look at other people's houses and know you can't give her that. So you took it from me instead. I borrowed it. I always planned to. You forged my signature, Andrew. My voice was still quiet. But something hard had entered it. You opened credit cards in my name. You lied to me for 20 months. That's not borrowing. That's theft. He was quiet for a long moment. Then what do you want me to do? I want you to tell me the truth. All of it. How much did you know? Andrew stared at his coffee. Lydia handled most of it. She'd show me papers and I'd sign them. She said they were for account transfers. Bill payments. I didn't read them carefully. You didn't want to read them carefully. No, he admitted. I didn't. Because if you read them, you'd have to admit what you were doing. Yes. And it was easier to stay ignorant. Yes. His voice was barely above a whisper. I stood up. Walked to the window. Outside, the garden was half weeded. My bucket sat where I'd left it. Everything looked normal. Nothing was normal. Do you know what hurt the most? I asked without turning around. It wasn't the money. It was the way you looked at me on Sunday. When everything came out. You looked at me like I was the problem. Like I was the one being unreasonable. I didn't mean. You did. I turned to face him. You meant it. Because in your mind, I was supposed to be grateful you were managing things. I was supposed to be too weak or too confused to notice. And when I did notice, I was supposed to quietly let it go. Mom, that's not fair. Fair. Something in me broke. Just a little. You want to talk about fair? I spent 50 years being fair. Being patient. Being the good wife and the good mother and the good grandmother. I let you make decisions for me because I thought you had my best interests at heart. I signed papers because you were my son and I trusted you. And you took that trust and you used it to steal from me. My voice had risen. I almost never raised my voice. Andrew looked stunned. I never wanted to hurt you, he said. But you did. You hurt me in a way I can't undo. Because now every time I look at you, I won't see my son. I'll see the man who waited for me to get old enough to rob. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. I sat back down, suddenly tired. You waited until your father died. Until I was alone. Until I was old enough that people would believe I was confused. And then you took everything we'd built. I'll pay it back. Every penny. I swear to God, Mom, I'll. With what money? I asked. You just said you're underwater on your mortgage. That you're drowning in debt. Where are you going to get $62,000? He didn't answer. You can't pay it back, I said. And even if you could, it wouldn't change what you did. Or what you thought of me when you did it. Andrew's hands were shaking. What do you want from me? I want you to tell me why you thought it was okay. I didn't think it was okay. I just thought. He trailed off. Then quieter, I thought you wouldn't be around long enough to need it. The words hung in the air. You thought I was dying, I said flatly. No, not dying. Just old. You're 72, Mom. The odds of you living another 20 years. So you decided to spend my money before I was done living. It sounds terrible when you say it like that. How else should it sound? He didn't have an answer. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. At 49 years old, he looked older than that. Tired. Worn down. Somewhere along the way, he'd stopped being the boy who brought me dandelions. He'd become the kind of man who justified stealing from his mother because she was old. I loved you more than anything, I said quietly. Did you know that? More than your father, even. You were mine. I carried you, raised you, sacrificed for you. I would have given you anything if you'd just asked. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sorry you did it. Or sorry you got caught. Both. I don't know. He was crying now. I don't know who I am anymore. I look at what I've done and I don't recognize myself. Then maybe you need to figure that out. Does that mean you're going to press charges? There it was. The real question. The one he'd been building up to. Arthur says I should, I said. Emily says I should. Every rational part of me says I should. But you're my son. I felt tears on my own cheeks. And that means something. Even now. Even after everything. So you won't. I didn't say that. Andrew leaned forward. Mom, please. If Lydia has a criminal record, they could charge her with a felony. It would destroy our lives. Emily would hate us forever. I'd lose my job if this got out. You should have thought of that before you forged my signature. I know. You're right. I know you're right. But please, give me a chance to make this right. How? I'll leave Lydia. I stared at him. What? She's the one who pushed this. Who did most of it? If I leave her, if I cooperate with Arthur, if I help document everything she did, you want to throw your wife under the bus to save yourself. She doesn't love me anyway. His voice broke. She loves what I could give her. What we could take from you. This whole marriage has been about money and status and keeping up appearances. And you're just realizing this now. I've known for a long time. I just didn't want to admit it. I felt something settle in my chest. A kind of sad clarity. You can't do that, I said. Why not? She deserves. Because then you haven't learned anything. I stood up again. Walked to the door. You'd just be finding a new person to blame. A new way to avoid responsibility. I'm taking responsibility. I'm admitting what I did. You're admitting it because you got caught. You're offering to sacrifice Lydia because you think it'll save you. I opened the door. That's not responsibility. That's self-preservation. Andrew stood. So what do you want from me? I want you to leave. Mom. I need time, Andrew. Time to think. Time to figure out what justice looks like when the person who hurt you is your own child. He walked to the door. Stopped in front of me. I do love you. I know you don't believe that right now. But I do. Love and access are different things, I said. Your father taught me that. He loved me enough to trust me, to respect me, to treat me like a partner, not a resource. I'm not Dad. No, I agreed. You're not. He left. I watched his car pull away. Then I closed the door and stood in the hallway. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My phone rang. Emily. Grandma. Are you okay? I saw Dad's car in your driveway on the doorbell camera. I'm fine. What did he want? To explain. To apologize. To ask me not to press charges. What did you say? I told him I needed time. Emily was quiet for a moment. Do you know what you're going to do? No. You don't have to decide today. I know. But Grandma. Whatever you decide, make sure it's for you. Not for him. Not for the family you wish you had. For you. After we hung up, I sat in my armchair. The same chair where this had all started. Where I'd heard Lydia whisper she's too weak to notice. Andrew had offered to leave Lydia. To help me build a case against her. To sacrifice his marriage to save his skin. Part of me wondered if I should take that offer. Let him cooperate. Let him prove he was sorry. But I knew better. He wasn't sorry. Not really. He was scared. And scared people say whatever they need to say. I thought about Thomas. About the way he used to look at our books at the end of the week. How he'd smile when the numbers balanced. How he'd always say, "We make a good team, Margaret." A good team. Based on trust. On respect. On the belief that we were partners in building a life, not adversaries, fighting over resources. Andrew had broken that. Not just with me. With himself. And I couldn't fix that for him. No matter how much I wanted to. That evening, I called Arthur. I've made a decision, I said. I'm listening. I want them to return the money. All of it. And I want a legal document saying they can never access my accounts again. Ever. And if they can't return it, then they have 60 days to come up with a payment plan. A real one. With you as the overseer. And if they refuse, I closed my eyes. Then I file a police report. That's fair, Margaret. Is it? It's more than fair. It's generous. It doesn't feel generous. That's because you're still hoping they'll do the right thing, Arthur said gently. They might. People surprise you sometimes. They already surprised me. Then maybe they'll surprise you again. After the call, I sat in the dark. I'd drawn a line. Love on one side. Access on the other. Andrew could have my love. He'd always have that, whether I wanted him to or not. Because you can't just stop loving your child, even when they've hurt you. But access. Control. The ability to take without asking. That was over. And if he couldn't accept that? If he chose to fight me? If he chose Lydia over accountability? Then I'd know exactly who my son had become. And I'd know exactly what I had to do next. Arthur delivered the documents on Thursday afternoon. I signed them at my kitchen table. 3 copies. 1 for me. 1 for Andrew and Lydia. 1 for Arthur's records. My signature looked shaky. Not because I was uncertain. Because my hands don't work the way they used to. They have until the end of September, Arthur said. 60 days to return the full amount or present a payment plan. And if they don't, then we file with the police. Criminal charges. Civil suit. All of it. I nodded. Folded my copy. Put it in the drawer where I used to keep recipes. Thank you, Arthur. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You believed me when it would have been easier not to. He put his hand over mine. His skin was warm, papery, old like mine. Margaret, you did the hard part. I just counted the numbers. After he left, I sat in the quiet house. Outside, someone was mowing their lawn. The sound was familiar, comforting, life continuing on. I thought about signing those papers, about drawing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Part of me wanted to tear them up, to call Andrew and say we'd figured out differently, that families don't sue each other, that love should mean something. But love did mean something. It meant I deserved better than this. It meant I was allowed to protect myself, even from my own son. That's what I'd learned. That love and boundaries aren't opposites. They're partners. Emily came over Friday evening, brought takeout Chinese food. We ate on the back porch watching the sun set behind the trees. She didn't ask about the documents, didn't push me to talk, just sat with me while the sky turned orange and then purple and then dark. Grandma, she said finally. Yes, sweetie. Do you think Dad will pay it back? I don't know. What if he doesn't? I set down my fork. Then I'll do what I have to do, even if it means he goes to jail. Even then. Emily was quiet for a while. Then I'm proud of you. For what? For choosing yourself. For not letting them make you feel guilty for protecting what's yours. I looked at my granddaughter, 22 years old and already wiser than her father. Maybe because she'd grown up watching what happens when people put everyone else first. When they swallow their own needs until there's nothing left but resentment and empty accounts. Your grandfather used to say something, I told her. He'd say, Margaret, being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. I didn't understand it then. I thought kindness meant accepting whatever people did to you, forgiving everything, making it easy for them. And now I know kindness has to include yourself. If you're not kind to yourself, you can't really be kind to anyone else. You're just teaching them that you don't matter. Emily reached over and squeezed my hand. You matter, Grandma. I'm starting to believe that. The weekend passed slowly. Saturday, I went to the farmer's market. Bought tomatoes and fresh bread. Talked to the neighbors I'd known for 30 years. Nobody asked about Andrew. Nobody mentioned Sunday dinner or locked accounts or $62,000. They just talked about the weather and their grandchildren, and whose roses were blooming best this year. Normal things. Small things. The kind of things that used to make up my whole world. Sunday, I didn't cook a pot roast. I made myself an omelette and ate it at the counter. Then I sat in the living room and read a book I'd been meaning to finish for 6 months. No interruptions. No phone calls. No one asking if I'd taken my pills or paid my bills or remembered to eat. Just quiet. It felt strange at first. Then it felt peaceful. Monday morning, the phone rang. Andrew. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello. Mom. I got the documents. I thought you would. This is really what you want. Legal papers. Deadlines. Threats of criminal charges. It's what I need. He was quiet. I could hear him breathing. Lydia says we should fight this. That you're not in your right mind. That we can prove you asked us to manage your accounts. Something cold settled in my stomach. Is that what you're going to do? I don't know. She's already talked to a lawyer. Said we have a case. Do you believe that? Long pause. No. Then why are you telling me? Because I want you to know what you're up against. If you push this, Lydia will fight. She'll drag you through court. She'll make you prove every single transaction. She'll tell everyone you're confused and manipulated by Emily. It'll get ugly, Mom. It's already ugly, Andrew. It can't get worse. I closed my eyes, took a breath, then let it get worse. I have the truth. I have documentation. I have Arthur and Emily and a clear mind. What do you have? I have desperation, he said quietly. And desperation makes people do terrible things. Is that a threat? It's a warning. His voice cracked. I don't want this, Mom. I don't want lawyers and courtrooms and family members choosing sides. But if you force this, that's what will happen. I'm not forcing anything. I gave you 60 days. That's more than fair. 60 days to come up with money we don't have. Then come up with a payment plan. Show me you're trying. Show me you care more about making this right than about protecting yourselves. And if we can't, then you've made your choice. He hung up. No goodbye. Just a click and then silence. I sat holding the phone. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From anger. From the realization that Andrew was choosing Lydia's version of events over his own mother's truth. That he was willing to call me confused. Manipulated. Not in my right mind. After everything, he was still trying to make me the problem. I called Emily. Told her about the conversation. She was quiet for a long time. Grandma, she said finally. You know this means war, right? If they're already talking to lawyers, they're going to fight this. I know. Are you ready for that? I don't know if anyone's ever ready to go to war with their own child. I looked out the window. The hydrangeas were still blooming. Reliable. Constant. But I'm ready to stop being a victim. I'm ready to stop letting people take from me because I'm too polite or too old or too afraid to stop them. Then I'm with you. Whatever happens, however bad it gets, I'm with you. Thank you, sweetie. You don't have to thank me. You're my grandmother. You taught me what integrity looks like. I'm just following your example. After we hung up, I made myself tea. Sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Thomas and I used to do the shop's bookkeeping. Where we'd made plans and counted receipts, and built a life one careful decision at a time. I thought about the Margaret who used to sit here. The one who always said yes. Who always made it easy. Who believed that if she just loved hard enough, everyone would love her back the same way. That Margaret was gone. Not destroyed. Just evolved. Changed by necessity into someone who understood that love without respect is just permission to be hurt. The days passed. September arrived. The mornings got cooler. I started wearing a sweater when I worked in the garden. The roses were fading. The hydrangeas were starting to brown at the edges. Everything was preparing for fall. Emily came over twice a week. Sometimes we talked about Andrew. Sometimes we didn't. Mostly we just spent time together. Cooking. Watching old movies. Sitting on the porch while the sun went down. She never made me feel like a burden. Never checked her watch or acted like she had somewhere better to be. Just showed up. Consistently. The way family is supposed to. Arthur called every Friday. Asked if I'd heard from Andrew. If I needed anything. If I was holding up okay. He didn't push. Didn't judge. Just checked in like the good friend he was. I realized something during those weeks. I wasn't alone. I'd felt alone when this started. When I was sitting in my armchair holding bank statements and wondering who I could trust. But I wasn't alone. I had Emily. I had Arthur. I had myself. That was enough. 3 weeks into September, a letter arrived from a law firm in Hartford. It was addressed to me. Heavy paper, formal language. It said Andrew and Lydia were contesting my claims, that they had evidence I'd authorized all transactions, that I was experiencing age-related confusion and should be evaluated by a medical professional before making legal decisions. I read it twice. Then I called Arthur. They're fighting it, I said. I expected they might. They want me to get a cognitive evaluation. They're saying I'm confused. That's standard strategy. They're trying to discredit you before you can file charges. He paused. How do you feel about getting evaluated? Fine. Let them pay for a doctor to confirm I'm perfectly lucid. It'll just make their case weaker. That's the spirit. I scheduled the evaluation for the following week. A geriatric psychiatrist in downtown New Haven. Emily drove me, sat in the waiting room while I answered questions and did memory tests and explained why I was there. The doctor was kind, professional. She didn't treat me like I was fragile or stupid. At the end she said, "Mrs. Hale, you have excellent cognitive function for your age. Actually excellent cognitive function for any age. There's no evidence of dementia, confusion, or impaired decision-making capacity. Can you put that in writing?" Already am. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in months. They tried to make me doubt myself, to make everyone else doubt me, and I'd proven them wrong. The deadline came. September 30th. I sat by the phone all day. Arthur had sent the final notice a week earlier. Pay the full amount, present a payment plan, or face criminal charges. No call came. At 5 o'clock, I called Arthur. They didn't respond. Then we filed tomorrow. Just like that. Just like that. You gave them every chance, Margaret. More chances than they deserved. That night, Emily stayed over. We made dinner together. Pasta with vegetables from the farmer's market. We ate at the kitchen table and didn't talk about Andrew or lawyers or what tomorrow would bring. After dinner, we sat on the porch. The air was cool. The stars were bright. Emily had wrapped us both in blankets. "Grandma," she said quietly. "Yes. Do you think you'll ever forgive him?" I thought about that. Really thought about it. "I think forgiveness isn't one thing," I said finally. "I can forgive him for being weak, for making bad choices, for disappointing me. But that doesn't mean I forget what he did, or that I let him back into my life the same way. Forgiveness and trust are different." "So you do forgive him?" "I forgive the boy he used to be, the one who loved me before he learned to see me as a resource. That boy didn't know what he would become." I pulled the blanket tighter. "But the man he is now, that's harder. He has to earn his way back from that. And I don't know if he will. What if he never does? Then I'll be sad. But I'll be okay. Because I've learned something these past months. I've learned I can survive losing him. I've learned I'm stronger than I thought. And I've learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary." Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. "I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetie. So much." We sat there until the stars multiplied above us. Until the cool air turned cold. Until it was time to go inside and sleep and wake up to whatever tomorrow would bring. The next morning, Arthur filed the police report, filed the civil suit, started the legal process that would either end in Andrew's accountability or his prosecution. Maybe both. I didn't cry, didn't doubt, just signed the papers and let Arthur do what needed to be done. That afternoon, I worked in the garden, pulled the last of the weeds, cut back the roses for winter, Prepared the hydrangeas for the cold months ahead. My hands were dirty. My back hurt. But the work felt good. Purposeful. Like I was taking care of something that mattered. When I finished, I sat on the porch steps and looked at what I'd done. The garden was ready. Protected. It would sleep through winter and come back in spring. Stronger for the rest. Like me, I'm 72 years old. I live alone in a small house in Ridgefield, Connecticut. My son stole from me. My daughter-in-law tried to make me believe I was too weak to notice. They were wrong. I noticed everything. I documented it. I protected myself. And when they gave me a choice between family peace and personal dignity, I chose dignity. Some people would say I should have stayed quiet. That family is family. That forgiveness means accepting whatever people do to you. Those people have never had to choose between loving someone and protecting themselves. I've made my choice. I'll live with whatever comes next. The lawsuits. The family fracture. The possibility that my son might never speak to me again. But I'll live with it on my own terms. In my own house. With my accounts locked and my boundaries clear, and my granddaughter by my side. That's not weakness. That's survival. And sometimes, survival is the strongest thing you can do. The hydrangeas will bloom again next spring. I plan to be here to see them. And that's enough. Thank you for listening to my story. For believing that even old women have the right to protect themselves. For understanding that love and boundaries can exist together. If this story meant something to you, I hope you'll subscribe to the Grandmama Radio channel. Hit that like button. Turn on notifications. Not for me, I'll be fine either way, but for yourself. So you remember that you're never too old, never too tired, never too anything to choose your own dignity. We all deserve that. Every single one of us. Take care of yourselves. And remember, being careful doesn't mean being weak. It means you're paying attention. And people who pay attention, we see everything.